the 562nd day of the war in Ukraine, the fighting was concentrated in these areas. On Donetsk Front, important developments happened during the last few days. In the Marinka sector, a few days ago, Ukrainian forces managed to recover ground in the areas south and east of Avdiivka. Ukrainian forces recaptured the Pryyutne mine and expanded the buffer zone to the east of the city. However, in the southern part of the front, the Russian forces have been successful during the last few hours, making advances in the city of Marinka. According to Ukrainian sources, including Deep State, Russian forces continue to push along the Zelyonaya Street, advancing about 350 meters towards the west. Russian forces now control over 80% of the city, with Ukrainian forces continuing to be present in the western parts of Marinka, and the rest of the city remains a war zone. Further north, in the direction of Avdiivka, Ukrainian forces made advances during the last few days. I remind you that during the past few weeks, the Russian forces made great efforts to encircle the Ukrainian troops in Avdiivka by attacking in three main directions. Initially, the Russian forces attacked east of Avdiivka in the Kamyanka-Kruta Balka line to shift the attention of the Ukrainian army in this direction, while the rest of the Russian forces tried to attack on the flanks north and south of the city. Russian forces tried to advance from Krasnohorivka towards Stepove, trying to cut the Ukrainian supply lines from the north, and at the same time another attack was carried out from Vodyane towards Sieverne with the aim of cutting the supply lines from the west. However, the Ukrainian forces organized a counterattack north of Krasnohorivka, forcing the Russian forces to abandon their plans in this direction. The eastern flank in the direction of Kamyanka held, while the Ukrainian forces carried out their decisive counterattacks against the Russian forces near Vodyane. Gradually, the Ukrainian forces managed to gain the upper hand, and today it is reported that the Ukrainian forces have managed to advance in the areas north of Pryyutne, clearing several Russian positions and taking about 2 square kilometers in this direction. On the Zaporizhzhia front, battles continue in the Robotine-Verbove sector. Ukrainian forces managed to stop a wave of Russian counterattacks in the areas south and west of Robotine, where it is reported that the intensity of the battles has decreased during the last few hours. In the same location with the Russian BMP destroyed yesterday, today the Ukrainian forces destroyed an abandoned Russian T-80 tank in the areas between Kopani and Robotine, which proves that the Russian counterattacks in this direction fail. According to geolocated footage, it seems that the Ukrainian forces are focusing their attacks in two main directions. Ukrainian sources have published footage that confirms that the Ukrainian army is attacking the Russian positions northeast and east of Novoprokopivka, trying to get closer to the outskirts of the town before launching a full-scale attack from the north and east. While in the eastern part of the front line, Ukrainians are trying to clear the manned trenches of the Surovikin line in order to prepare the ground for an attack of their armored units towards Verbove. At the same time, the Ukrainian artillery has been quite active in the areas north of Verbove and is preparing the ground for a possible infiltration of the Ukrainian infantry units in the areas north of Verbove. In this segment, the Russian defense is weaker because of the lack of Dragon's Teeth lines and anti-tank ditches along the Robotine-Verbove road. Also, the presence of only one trench line north of Verbove creates a more favorable ground for the Ukrainians to storm the settlement in a combined attack of their infantry and armored units. In the Vremivka front, battles continue on the eastern and western flanks. On the western flank, the Russian forces launched a counterattack in the areas northeast of Pryyutne, recovering a part of the territory they lost a few days ago. Ukrainian forces continue their efforts to push southward in the Pryyutne-Urozhaine line and made some small advances in the areas north of Zavite-Bazhanya. While on the eastern flank, Ukrainian forces continue their offensive against Novodonetske and Novomayorske. As reported by Russian sources on the ground, Ukrainian artillery continues to dominate this area, while small Ukrainian groups occasionally penetrate in the vicinity of Novodonetske, attacking the village from the north and northwest. Friends, if you like my daily updates, I kindly ask you to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as this will greatly help the channel to reach a wider audience. That's all for today's update. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. and have a great day.